皆さんこんにちは and welcome to Shogo's podcast. So, today I'd like to talk a little bit more about Hiroshima. Now, if you've been seeing my main channel, on August 6th, the day of the A-bomb day, I made a video talking about what you cannot miss out when you visit Hiroshima, right? Yes. And originally, I was considering putting this as the omake talk of that video, but what I'm going to be talking about today might be a little bit, what should I say, not that sensitive, but I thought it shouldn't be something that I spoke on that day on the A-bomb specifically. So that's the reason why I kind of separated it to this day to make the podcast. But it's something that I absolutely do want to make clear as a person who grew up in Hiroshima. And what it is Hiroshima, when we are taught about the A-bomb or about the wars and everything. So first of all, let's start from the good parts. I really think that it's very good that Hiroshima does a great job trying to pass down the history, everything that happened, all of, listening to the voices of the hibakusha and, having the museum, the peace bark, managing that and still having all the ceremonies every year, I think, and people all the kids that grew up in Hiroshima definitely learn a lot about it as we grow up. I think everyone in Hiroshima can basically explain about the A-bomb and what happened after the A-bomb was dropped and such. So I think that's really good. Like in my generation, like I can explain everything about what happened that day, what kind of things that people experienced, and I've listened to many the stories of hibakusha from their own experiences. So I think it's great that they still, even after more than 70 years have passed after the war ended, but they still try their best, to pass down the culture. The history, I should say. Sorry. Well, I guess the culture of trying to preserve the memories, pass down the memories, the tragic history, so that we don't repeat it again. I think it's really good. It'd be really sad at some point that Hiroshima stopped teaching their youth about the history. So I think it's really good that they have places to go to study about it. They're ready for everyone who are willing to learn, right? Yes. So that's great. So of course I admit that as a person who grew up in Hiroshima, I think that's great. I think good job Hiroshima. But also at the same time, because I'm from Hiroshima, I'm also very should I say, I've been having something on my mind for a long time now, and I really wanted to share with you about this. Yes, and what it is that the way Hiroshima teaches their youth, for example, to us too, I think it could be a lot better. And why I think so, it's because when Hiroshima teaches the youth about the A-bomb, they explain about how strong the bomb was, how scary a nuclear weapon is, about the black rain, about the big mushroom cloud that was made after the bombing, and after all the people who had burnt skin, and it's very scary, but all the dead bodies that filled the rivers because of their burning skin. They felt so hot they thought they needed to immediately go into the water. The rivers were filled with bodies. Yes, and they talk everything about this. We listen to the hibakusha stories and like that. Okay, so we get that. Yes, of course that's really important. But I think, shouldn't we teach more about why this happened in the first place? Yes. So let's say two kids were fighting, yes, and one child ended up punching the other boy. You can explain to him why punching someone is very, very bad, or how painful it was to recover from being punched or being injured by it. But shouldn't we talk about why that fight happened in the first place if we really want to prevent it? Yes. So I'm sorry, that example might have been not a really good example, but so to make a long story short, I think Hiroshima, if Hiroshima really wants to prevent repeating the similar history anywhere, not just Japan, but anywhere in the world, they should really teach the people of Hiroshima about why Japan suffered from the A-bomb in the first place. What happened after West Japan westernized in the after the Meiji Restoration. What led Japan to invade all of the Asian countries near Japan? What led it to start all the wars? What led it to go basically, if I say it straightforwardly, what happened to Japan that made it go crazy, basically? Japan was completely under control during the 20th century, right? Yes, and the first half of the 20th century and the end of the 19th century, Japan was completely out of control. That's very clear if you take a look at the history. We really should teach, if we really want to prevent this history from happening, what happened to Japan at this time? So, for example, I listed a few things. How did Japan lead to fascism or to militarism? Yes. Why did the people of Japan at some point wanted Japan to militarize, or they seeked fascism, right? Yes, at some point. Why did they do that? Yes. And two, we need to understand the characteristics of Japanese people. We are surely a groupism society, a collectivism society, which means that I shouldn't say no one, but we tend to not speak out, we try to keep our opinions within us. And if one person says it's this way, one important person, one leader or someone says it's left, then everyone tends to go left, even though in their minds they're thinking, left isn't something that I would think is good, but I guess I just have to follow it because everyone else is going left, And sometimes everyone is thinking that way, yes. So everyone might be thinking, okay, so I really want to go right. By the way, this left and right doesn't mean anything. I want to go right, but I guess the leader is saying left and everyone's going left, so I should go left too. And then everyone is actually thinking that way, yes. So we really need to understand these characteristics, these mindsets that Japanese people tend to have, right? Yes. Even if someone realizes it's not a good thing, to hurt someone or, do anything, it could be anything, right? Yes. But it's very hard to speak out in the Japanese society, especially if you're a Japanese person who would born and brought up in Japan. You have a very hard time doing that. So we need to understand that too. We need to create a system where we can try to listen to the voices of each person. We need to have more occasions or chances or ways to do that. Yes. And also, number three is we really need to understand the political situation, the economy at that time of the end of the 19th century, the first half of the 20th century. What was Japan like? What kind of situation, what was Japan going through at that time, economically and also politically? Yes. Taking a look at these two factors will be a lot easier to understand why it led to all the other things I explained, fascism, militarism, and so on and so forth. Yes. Just talking about, wow, the A-bomb is a very dangerous weapon. Yes, of course we should talk about that. Yes, because it is a very dangerous weapon and no one in this world should ever use it again against people or anywhere on this earth because there's just too much damage and we should never repeat this history. That's true, but we really should talk about what happened. Yes, we need to take a look at the root of the cause that, led to the drop of the A-bomb, yes. I know that because I grew up in America, I have a lot of friends in the US who tell me that, well, it might have not been the best option, but it was definitely the better option for the US to drop the A-bomb on Japan. And in a way, about 1% of me, yes, 99% of me thinks that, well, no one should kill anyone in the first place, yes. But 1% of me, kind of understands what everyone is talking about when they say, if it was a full, the mainland invasion, full invasion of the mainland, was it? Yes. If that happened, Japan would have been completely destroyed, even more than maybe the A-bomb, right? It could have been, could have had worse results, yes. So, I really think that Hiroshima, I mean, there must be something that is stopping Hiroshima from doing this sort of education because I cannot be the first person to think about this, yes. There must have been someone else that thought the same way, but it's still not done. Then it means it must be something that is disturbing Hiroshima from doing this kind of education. And what is it? I do not know, actually, yes. But at least to my children, or if I have any, for example, apprentices or juniors in the future in training martial arts or tea ceremonies or anything, and if I have an occasion to talk about Hiroshima, I would love to explain, of course, about the tragedy of the dropping of the A-bomb, but also about the tragedy of what happened before in Japan during the end of the 19th century to the beginning of the 20th century, because I believe that would be the actual way to prevent repeating the sad history. Yes. All right. So as I always say, these my stories are, of course, just completely my personal opinions. I would love to know what you think about this. Yes, or yeah, anything about the A-bomb you had, if you were taught a certain way about it at your country, or anything about your opinions about what you thought about what I just explained about. Yes, and as I always say, my English is not really good, and I don't usually prepare a script to talk for the podcast. I just take a short memo. I just want to, I want to speak from my heart. So I go all over the place, repeat the same things, and I'm really sorry about that. But it'd be great if you can have a discussion in the comment section. Yes, I would love to hear from you what you think about the education in Hiroshima for what I just talked about. Okay? All right. So then, as I always say, my goal is to make Japan a better place for everyone who wants to travel, study, and live in Japan. Yes. And that's because what I want to do is because, there's a lot of people around the world who have hopes and dreams in Japan. They might be studying Japanese. They might be trying to train a traditional culture. They might want to see the nature or the history in Japan. But Japan right now is facing a lot of social problems and issues. Also, it's losing its traditional culture, and the young are suffering because of its aging society. Yes. So I don't want anyone coming to Japan with their hearts with hopes and dreams in them, and coming here and saying, well, this wasn't the Japan I had in mind. Be really, really sad to see someone's, hopes and all their colors in their eyes, with excitement change into despair. So I don't want to see that. So I want to solve the social problem of Japan. I want to preserve and also evolve the traditional culture and help out the younger generation, yes, by creating businesses and such, yes. And the nearest goal, I should say, is to achieve 1 million subscribers by the end of next year for my main channel. So it'd be great if you can give me likes or write more comments. They will help me to boost my videos to more people who haven't watched my video yet. So it'd be great if you can help me out if you enjoy my content. Yes, and I really, really, really appreciate your support. Thank you so much, guys. All right, then I'll be waiting for your comments. ありがとうございました。